Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
It's great to have you on, man. We've been Instagram pals for a long time, and last night we were chatting on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned I've got an interesting topic for you, and and here we are. So I'm pumped to have you on the show, and thanks for being here. And we're gonna get the Canadian perspective on three guns. So Ryan, a little bit about you. Give us a little bit of background. When did you get into three gun, and what do you do in that arena as far as shooting sports?
So I'll start off. When I was younger, when I was in high school, I was really indifferent to guns and firearms. It was one of those things where, if you had guns, like that was cool. If you didn't have guns, that was cool too. Like I was on the fence. Like it didn't affect me, so it wasn't a hard decision. Like there wasn't a decision to be made. When I got into college, I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, whether that was police, border security, or corrections. And in Canada, to be a border guard, you have to get what's called your possession and acquisition license. So we call it a PAL. That's how you own and buy firearms in Canada. It's the starting point. So a family friend of mine, I knew he always had guns. So I shot him a text. I said, can you take me to the range? Can you get me familiar? Like just, an experience. And he took me, he shot me. I shot a 22, I shot a 9mm, shot an AR, shot a 12 gauge, shot a bolt action. And it was just downhill from there. I fell in love with guns the first time I pulled the trigger. So then I started the lengthy process of getting your PAL. So to start off, you have to take a weekend-long course. So Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And it covers all the safety points, how to clear a firearm, how to keep your finger outside of the trigger, like all the safety stuff. Not necessarily make you a good shooter, but make you a safe shooter. Mm-hmm. You have to pass 2 tests, 2 written tests, 2 practical tests in order to get your firearms license. Even if you pass those tests, you have to send those tests off to the government for them to do a background check on you to make sure that they think you're competent enough to own firearms. You wait.
And do they review the tests that you've taken then to make sure that you did them correctly and stuff?
Yeah, you have to get above 75% on all 4 tests in order to pass. And then if you pass, then they do a background check. You have to have people sign off that you're not crazy and you're not going to go out and shoot somebody. So the RCMP actually called my dad to ask my dad if I was crazy and was going to kill someone if I got guns.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So you have to
What'd
do
your dad
that.
say?
No, of course not. I have him now, so I hope he said no. So even after you send your paperwork away, there's no guarantees. They could lose your paperwork and then you have to start the process all over again. So there's no guarantees in any of this. So once you pay your money and you get your card back, you get your PAL, and then you can go to a gun store and you can buy a gun. But if you're buying like a handgun or before the ban AR-15s, it was another 4-week waiting process for the government to check you again to make sure that you're okay to have a restricted firearm, so like a handgun. So when I bought my first handgun, I waited 2 months and I was like, where's my gun? Because no one told me this. It was such a long process just to get my first firearm. My first firearm was an M&P 2.0. So it was a long it was a long process. And then like most people, I started off with IDPA. My local clubs shot IDPA and had an IDPA league going on, so I shot that for a couple of years. And then when I was at one of those matches, someone's like, do you like this? Well, you should try 3-gun. And I'm like, well, what's 3-gun? And this was back in 2015, right when 3-Gun Nation was kind of on the decline. But that's all the videos I saw was 3-Gun Nation Pro Series. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Nice.
I fell in love.
It really
with
did
3-gun.
a lot to get people into the shooting sports and 3-gun specifically. It was a good billboard.
It was all I could talk about at home, at work, at school. Like people were like, okay, Ryan, enough. We know you like 3-gun.
Well, so I have a question.
Okay.
Since I'm not familiar with Canadian law at all, do you have to be a competitor to own firearms, or
No.
is that just something you decide to do once you own them?
That's just something you decide to do once you own them. So in Canada, we have three types of licenses. We have a non-restricted license, which is most shotguns, bolt action, lever action, like that kind of stuff. Then you have your restricted license, which covers, handguns, the AR-15 when it was restricted. And you can get your prohib license if you get grandfathered, like a short-barreled pistol or something, or a full auto or something like that. You can apply for your prohib. But yeah, so in order to have a handgun in Ontario, which is the province I live in, you have to be a member at a certified range.
Okay.
So you can only shoot restricted firearms at a certified range. You can't, like, if I had a field out back, I can't go out back and shoot my handgun. It's illegal.
Really?
Yeah. So
even on your own property?
Even on your own property. If the police catch you, you go to prison for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
that's not good.
It's weird. And just some firearms they kind of just threw in there, like the AR-15 has always been restricted. It was just something we kind of dealt with. But like you can go shoot trap out in your back field if you want to. You can sight in a bolt action rifle on your back 40. Like there's no laws against shooting a non-restricted firearm on your own property.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's quite different.
Yeah, I was gonna say as an American, it's tough to comprehend that because we have like a very, I guess like individualistic nature, and it's I don't know. My first like gut reaction is like, well, that's my property and it's my personal property. Why can't I use my personal property on my property? So it's tough to understand from someone who's been in America my entire life.
I get that a lot when I talk to a lot of the guys I shoot with in the States when I travel there. In their minds, all our laws are unconstitutional. Well, Canada doesn't have a constitution. Well, we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but the owning firearms is not part of it.
Yeah. And so okay. I'm gonna just sound totally ignorant here, but when did you get the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Is that like the founding of Canada, or did that come later?
No, that's the founding of Canada. It's the same as your Constitution. Just as soon as Canada was formed, they added in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Just having firearms was not added.
So very similar to our Bill of Rights that came after. Got it. Okay.
So and over here, the really frustrating part is restricted firearms almost come across as taboo, because when you're traveling with restricted firearms, they have to be trigger locked in a locked case in an inaccessible spot in your vehicle. Your ammo has to be locked up separately. When you bring your restricted firearms home, they have to go right into the safe. Like it's very like no touchy, only when you're shooting on the line, like no touchy. It's kind of ridiculous. Like
you're not supposed to look at them, don't think about them.
Pretty much, like that's the vibe you get. I mean, of course, I dry fire as much as possible, but if a policeman came to my house and he'd be like, "Why do you have your guns out?" Like they don't quite understand.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't understand dry fire very much.
No, not really.
You have to explain that one. That's incredibly interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the
good for you for still dry firing, even though you do have restrictions. So, as far as like the restricted firearms, like, excuse me, what additional hoops did you have to jump through to get those? Well, and you said that the AR-15 has been banned. Explain that too.
So first I'll start off with restricted firearms. So when I took my PAL course, the restricted and non-restricted was combined into the weekend. So I got both in one shot. You can do that, or you can just get your non-restricted. There's a lot of, like you call FUDs in Canada too, where they're like, you don't need that handgun, you don't need an AR-15 kind of thing. So you can pick and choose what you, you can pick and choose what you want. again, the only extra hoops you have to jump through is there's a waiting period whenever you buy one, usually 4 to 6 weeks. And even on private sales, you have to call our chief firearms officer, so our CFO, and tell them, my name is Ryan Langell, my PAL number is this, I'm purchasing this firearm, here's the transaction number, I'm buying it from such and such a person, here's their PAL number, here's their address, it'll be stored at my house at this address. Like, you have to tell them all this information so they constantly keep track of where restricted firearms are at all times.
Wow.
But when I buy a gun online, it comes straight to my door.
Huh. Okay, that's weird. That's weird to me too. It should totally be that way, but that is something that's out of the ordinary here.
Every restricted firearm I've bought has come straight to my door. In fact, my first one, it was supposed to be sign on delivery. The guy just left it at my front door, and my dad picked it up when he came home.
Nice.
So
yeah. So
it's
when we
weird.
have, yeah, for sure. Here when we have guns returned from like the gunsmith, it can come directly to our door because it is your property. You send it off to a gunsmith, and I've definitely had that too. Like just a gun lying on my porch when I get home. Although not such a big deal here, I guess, compared to yours.
Yeah. So it's not a huge deal. I mean, like I said, people are like, oh, it's unconstitutional. Well, to me, it's just kind of like that's just how it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of how things are. Yeah, and we had AR-15s. As of late, we haven't had them. So our prime minister, the same as your president, in 2019 he ran on the platform. I'm sorry, I'm getting political, but this is part of it.
It's all good.
So he ran on the platform that he was going to ban assault-style weapons, the AR-15. He called them dangerous. The same thing you guys get over there. They're dangerous. They kill as many people as the shortest amount of time. Like yada yada yada. All the same drool. And the thing is like I said, guns over here. It's not. Most people, 80% of people in Canada don't care if you own guns. They don't. It doesn't hurt them. It doesn't affect them. It's a non-issue for 80% of people in Canada. And then the other 20% are people who love guns like me. And the other half of that are people who absolutely hate guns for whatever reason. So when he ran, it was kind of a non-issue. It definitely was not what gave him the prime minister spot. But it was part of his platform. And in 2020, when the pandemic happened, so COVID was like, I think the same thing you do with COVID. It was more of a scamdemic. Like, I don't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. But as soon as that hit, he did what was called an order in council. It's very similar to your executive order, but there's not a check to it. So what he did is he took a bunch of his yes men into a closed room and banned 1,500 different types of AR-15s.
Jeez.
Like, just completely wrote them off.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had sent my gun off to be painted, so I didn't even have it at the time. And when the ban came down, I panicked. I was like, are they gonna send my gun in because it's banned now? Like, am I getting it back? Like, what's going on? So I called the CFO when it happened, and I asked them, I said, did you guys know this was happening? And they're like, no, boss told us to watch the screen this morning to see what was going to change. So no one knew that this was coming. Like, just all of a sudden, May 1st, 2020, they're gone. Can't have them, can't shoot them, can't play with them. They have to stay in the safe. You're not allowed to take them out. They're not allowed to go to the range. Nothing. They're prohibited. They're done. And he said, we're going to give you... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I used to work at a rifle company, and they had a product that was not on the ban list because it wasn't an AR-10 and it wasn't an LR-308. It was a specific item. And we sold a bunch of those to Canada, and they were, 6.5 and 308. Tons of them to Canada, receiver sets and stuff like that. It was a large portion of our business. And then I remember that day, like, it shut off, and it was bad news. We were the whole company was a little concerned, to say the least, at that point. that was a significant portion of their business. So
Yeah,
I remember that specifically. It just was like one day it was fine, and the next day it wasn't. And the importer exporters that we worked with here in the U.S. had canceled like several large orders. I can't give numbers or anything, but they were very large numbers. So it was like, okay, what are we going to do now? We have all this inventory.
Well, the same thing happened here. So when he did that, he said, okay, we're going to give you 2 years to turn them in, because it was his buyback. He wants a buyback. But here, like in the States, the government never owned them to begin with. They were ours. We bought them from private businesses and owned them legally. You know, we jumped through the hoops. So I was like, just like in the States, no cop is going to be dumb enough to go knock on the door of someone that they know has more than what they're going to get. You know, like I know several cops, they all said the same thing. They won't do it. They will not do it. I know guys that are in military reserves or did military service. They said the same thing. They're like, the Army won't do it. They will refuse. They're not going knocking on people's doors to get the AR-15s back. It's not going to happen. So he started looking for a company to go about getting back these firearms. And
oh, you're kidding.
No. And what ended up happening was no company would would do it, because no one's that dumb to be like, let's go knock on every single person we know that has an AR-15 and take it back. You know, like it's not going to happen. And then the money alone he wants to spend to buy them back will cost Canada billions in taxpayers. That's just to pay for the rifles, and he only wants to give us $500 a piece for them.
Wow.
And
yeah, see,
you know,
in America, they could probably get away with that because nobody cares about money, because it's all fake. It's all made up. But one thing I do have to say is, again, I'm completely ignorant. I only know what I know from the news, and it's American news, so it's probably garbage. But during the trucker protest that you guys had, I believe Trudeau called upon some branch of the military to assist, and they told him, nah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. They're just
and that blows my mind, because in the U.S. it feels like they just, you know, lockstep do whatever the president says, because of course he's commander in chief. But if someone higher up, like a general or something like that, told Biden or whomever is at the helm at that time, no, that would be like a huge deal. That would be massive deal.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, so at one point there was Trudeau said, "Oh, we found this company. They're going to do it." And I forget the name of the company, but they quickly put out a statement because everyone in Canada was boycotting their company and their sister companies and their parent companies.
Oh, wow.
And they put out a statement really quick. They're like, no. We never said that. We said we were considering it. We're not considering it anymore. No. No. And it's funny. Our 2 years is up May 1st of this year. And Trudeau put out a statement in early February. Oh, we're going to give you another year and a half. We'll give you till October 2023. So it's kind of like, it's starting to seem like it's going to be like New Zealand and Australia, where the amnesty period is indefinite. What you can turn them in when you want, and we just won't. Like no one over here wants to turn in their guns because we've done nothing wrong.
Okay. Well, of course you've done nothing wrong. So you're not turning them in, but are you still able to use them?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay, so not allowed to use them anymore. So then what happens with, well, I guess the next question I was going to ask is, like, if you need to service parts, can you buy parts anywhere? Can you buy replacement parts and things like that? I guess you don't need it if you're not using it, but.
Some stuff like, you can buy, there are other firearms in Canada that take some AR-15 parts. Like I have a rifle called the multi-caliber rifle. It's called an MCR. It's a Canadian-made company. It looks very similar to an AR-15. Actually, it looks more like a, the retro rifle from Brownells, the BR-180.
Yeah, the BR-180. Yeah,
it looks like that. It's very similar to that.
Yeah. So that's based on the Armalite, the AR-180. So
that's what the MCR is. It's based off the AR-180. So it takes the same barrel. It takes the same barrels. It takes same buffer tube. You can put AR stocks on it, AR pistols. You can put AR triggers in it, AR safeties. So it's very similar to an AR-15, but not an AR-15, and it's non-restricted. So I can shoot that in my back 40 if I wanted to.
That's so weird. Well, that's the same thing that I was talking about with that company I worked for. Is they had a design that used a portion of the AR-10 and a portion of the LR-308, and so it was neither. Which, for those that don't know, those are the big platform ARs. So it took the best of both worlds to make one rifle, and then thus it was a category of its own. So it wasn't on the restricted list. Crazy. There's
been a lot of companies coming out that are trying to find ways around the law. There's a company in Barrie, Ontario, which is about 3 hours from me. They're called Maple Ridge Armory, and they've made a straight pull bolt action that's basically AR-15 receivers, just no gas. There's no gas tube. Like there's no hole for a gas tube. So you just keep pulling it. It's like a malfunctioning AR-15. A buddy of mine has one. They're
nice.
They're not fun to shoot. It's kind of like,
Sounds terrible. Yeah. There was a company, I believe it was like a New York legal AR-15 sold here in the U.S., and it was a pump. I think that might have been Troy Industries or something like that.
We have those.
But the handguard was like a shotgun pump. You have those too?
Yeah, a lot of people over here are trying to use those. A buddy of mine has one of those too. It's not the same. Semi-automatic is king.
Well, of course.
Interesting. So just to bridge off that really quick.
Sure.
In Canada, we have magazine restrictions. So our pistols can only hold 10. Our rifles are only supposed to hold 5, but we have LAR pistol mags, which hold 10 for our rifles. So we kind of skirt around that law a little bit. But semi-automatic shotguns are only allowed to have 5 in the tube.
Right.
So over here, a lot of guys like to use pump actions, and they look like the TAC Ops shotguns in the States, big long tubes, and it's just a pump action.
Right.
So it's over here. It's kind of weird. Like guys like to use pump actions. I still use a semi-auto because I travel over to the States enough that semi-auto is still king.
Sure.
So
yeah, it's interesting. If I guess like thinking about it, so it would have to depend on the rules, like how many you load on the start or whatever. But yeah, the extra capacity would make up for a pump being much slower. If you didn't have the choice to go and compete in the U.S. Seems like the semi-automatic would be the way to go. Or the pump action would be the way to go.
Yeah, and when the ban happened, it wasn't just AR-15s that he went after. He went after big bore rifles like 50 cals, 458 SOCOM. At one point, we were getting really scared because in the way he worded it, it was like anything with a bore diameter bigger than 20 millimeters was banned, and everyone's pulling out their micrometers and measuring 12-gauge shotguns, and we're like, did he just ban 12 gauges? Because when you remove the choke, it's like it's bigger than 20 millimeters. So everyone's kind of like, did he just ban 12 gauges? So I was like, my cousin, he's just a hunter. He's not into the like black rifle and handgun. So me and him got into it once, and I messaged him really quick. I said, "Welcome to the fight," because they're coming for your shotgun because they came for my rifle. They're coming for your shotgun.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of people that are, I guess, air quote sportsmen here in the U.S. that are part of the enemy, and most of them carry shotguns, and they have no use for pistols. They have no use for AR-15s, and they would gladly send you down the road to save their over-under shotgun. And it's disgusting to me because it's like those are the people selling out their neighbors in when it comes down to it. It's disgusting. But anyway, the point is that
it's frustrating for sure.
We got that here.
Yeah.
We got that here, but and they don't seem to follow the logic of like, well, when there's no AR-15s, what are they going to come after next? Well, they're going to come after your bolt-action sniper rifles, and they're
exactly.
then when those are gone, what are they going to come after? So
that's
it's great that the the 12 gauger's got a taste of it.
Well, that's what I said to my cousin because me and him got into it about he didn't like me posting pictures about my AR-15, and I'm just like, listen, my air quotes assault rifle today, your air quotes sniper rifle tomorrow. He's like, well, I don't own a sniper rifle. I said, do you have a 30-06 bolt action with a scope on? He goes, well, yeah, that's my bear gun. I said, well, that's a sniper rifle. It's got a scope on it.
It's true.
So.
Yeah, it is true. Okay, well, so we've talked enough, I guess, about the like how to procure firearms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it's going to be a little hazy at least until let's see, do you guys have term limits? Is Trudeau going to be your emperor forever? Like what happened there?
We do have term limits. He got what's called a minority. So in our House of Commons, his party got more votes per person, but when it comes to like ridings, so the size, your riding size depends on the population. So like in the Toronto area, because it's so heavily populated, there's a lot of ridings. So
right,
he didn't win enough ridings to get the majority of seats in the House, but he got enough votes for himself, for like his party individually, that he became prime minister. It's super confusing. I don't completely understand it. I don't know how someone can rule with a minority government. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But then again, I'm not in politics, and I don't have to really understand it. I just got to know that who's in charge, I guess. So anyway,
so hopefully at some point Trudeau is going to leave, and then maybe this I'm sorry, I forgot what you called it, but executive order type thing.
Order in council.
Order in council. Maybe his order in council can be repealed, turned around, or something like that, and you'll be able to have industry and the freedoms again.
Well, what happened when the order in council came down? There's a group in Canada known as the Coalition for Canadian Firearms Rights, the CCFR. Them and a bunch of other groups and all the private sellers, so like the gun stores and that, sued the government for this because we've done nothing wrong. It's wrong to like ban them all of a sudden. So there's a court case in Canada going on to get our rifles back.
Okay.
So we're waiting on that. It's got some traction. It's very much that we hope it'll win. We really hope. Right now the government's got like no evidence, and we've got all this evidence, so it's looking good. But the big problem.
Right. Well.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say the major problem, the thing that made it even worse, is you have all these gun stores that had storerooms full of AR-15 and AR-15 parts, like billions and billions of dollars worth of rifles that they can't get rid of. They can't export them. They can't sell them. You know, they're just sitting in storage lockers. So a lot of people are losing a lot of money that way too. So it wasn't just the consumer that was affected. It was businesses that have been really affected as well.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as like the COVID restrictions when they completely just shut down small businesses. It was like the government does not care about you, and it doesn't matter which government it is; they do not care. So, yeah, that's super unfortunate, and I feel like as a small business owner, it's so difficult to make it anyway, and to be able to have cash flow and stuff like that. That when all of a sudden you have all this inventory that you're not allowed to sell, it's like that could hang you, your family, your business, all your employees. Like that's a really bad situation, and just absolutely no regard whatsoever from the powers that be. It's terrible.
Well, and it keeps getting worse and worse. So the original OIC banned 1,500 different types of means. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, okay. Well, we're back. So you said that the original OIC banned 1,500 different firearms types?
Yep. So we have what's called a firearms table. So it basically says what's restricted, what's non-restricted, what's prohibited. And the RCMP, so kind of the RCMP, like the Mounties, are our highest level of policing. They keep banning more stuff. So stuff that fits the description. So like a company called Black Creek Labs. If I could English, I'd be a genius. they came out with a gun called the BCL Coyote, and it was basically supposed to be an AR-15, but not an AR-15, just take the parts, and it was non-restricted. Well, the RCMP said, no, that's on the firearms table now, it's prohibited. So, like, they're just adding to it. We have, over in Canada, we have what's called a Daria Mark 12. It's basically a VR-180, the AR pattern shotgun. Those got banned too.
Really?
Yeah, because it's an AR-15 platform.
Yeah, it just kind of looks like one. Doesn't even operate the same.
Yep,
doesn't have any of the same parts except for the stock and the grip. Man.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You're totally bumming me out here, man.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the last few years I've really improved as a shooter because despite COVID, like we couldn't go over to the States, but I spent the last 2 years shooting in my buddy's back 40, just getting better for the American season. So we just shot rifle and shotgun. So on the upside, I've gotten a lot better in the last couple of years because people didn't like COVID shutting everything down. Like all our ranges were shut down. So my buddy stepped up, said, I've got all this room. I've got all these targets. Let's shoot. So
that's great.
We still have a good community over here and we like to band together and keep each other sharp. So it's not all bad. It's just, it sucks that, they decide to attack one particular type of firearm for no good reason.
Yeah, I guess the part that like really upsets me about all that is that you guys weren't doing anything wrong, and they always want to punish the people that own the inanimate object that aren't doing anything wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, we all that whole murder thing's already illegal,
Yep.
And it's been illegal for a long time, mm-hmm. and it's been wrong for even longer.
Oh yeah,
and we as humans still keep killing each other en masse, and the governments are the largest offenders. The U.S. government is the mm-hmm. biggest friggin' murderer in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. So it's like they come from this place of for the children and for safety and stuff like that, but it's absolutely not the truth whatsoever. And and the general public just keeps buying it and going along with it. It just blows my mind.
Ah, crap.
But it's all propaganda. But let's talk about something happy. Let's talk about actual competition in shooting 3 guns. So you've mentioned a couple times here, Ryan, mm-hmm. that you travel to the U.S. to shoot matches as well. So you actually shoot on a regular basis in the U.S. So how does that whole thing work?
So,
how do you bring your guns over? How do you travel? What matches do you shoot? Where do you go? All that stuff.
Right now, where I live in the most southern point of Canada. I'm literally the most southern town in Canada. When I cross it into Detroit, and about an hour north. Pardon?
I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the crossing.
Yeah. So, about an hour north of Detroit, there's a range called Blue Water Sportsman, and they put on regular UML matches monthly. So that's where I shoot the majority of the time is up in Kimball, Michigan, at Blue Water Sportsman.
No kidding.
Yeah,
that's cool. So, you said so it's club match. So is it like a monthly match?
Yep. Yeah, it's a monthly club match.
And so you go over there regularly to shoot. So mm-hmm. how does all that work? What's the logistics of? Do you need a passport?
Yeah. You need your passport. Good stuff. Yeah, you need your passport. So in order for my guns to get into the U.S., I have to fill out a form from the ATF called a Form 6 NIA. And it asks me for my name, my address, my PAL number. I put in all my firearms information and all their, like where they were made, their calibers, all that stuff.
Do you have to fill out an ATF form every single time
No.
you travel? Okay.
So the way it works is it's called a Form 6 NIA. I put all my information on it, including the guns and the ammo I'm going to bring, and I fill it out once a year. It's good for a year, and it just tells them like I'm bringing these guns over with this ammo. It's not a big deal, but like everything else, the ATF takes their time approving it, sending it back to you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's not a huge deal. The biggest problem we've come across is there's some so my MCR isn't importable. They call it an AR platform. So they won't let me bring it across, which it's not a big deal. So yeah, you need a passport, you need that. And then to get back into Canada, you need your PAL and you need your registration of your restricted firearms. So you go over, you get to the border, you show them your paperwork. Sometimes they want to look and check serial numbers, sometimes they don't. Kind of depends on which guard you get. And once you get over, you go to a locker, you get your full capacity magazines. Because we like freedom. So you
got some American mags stored in America?
Yep, pretty much. Or we get awesome Americans to hold on to them for us.
Gotcha.
So yeah, getting over isn't a big deal. Getting the paperwork is more of a big deal because, like I said, the ATF likes to take their time.
Yeah.
You go over, you shoot, you come back. Because we bring our magazines over and we'll drill out the rivets that restrict them to 5 rounds. Like I have P-mags that are pinned at 5, and I'll just drill the rivet out. When I go over, shoot, re-pin them, and bring them back over, and they're Canadian legal.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right then.
It's different. So then we shoot. We have
Sounds like California.
Sometimes I think we're worse.
Yeah. It's arguable.
And then on the way back, the same thing. You tell them where you've been. Every time I get to the border, when I tell the Canadian border guard where I've been, it's like deer in the headlights. Like, oh, where were you? Oh, I was shooting a 3-gun match. What's a 3-gun match? Well, multi-gun.
Did they hear the word gun and like automatically freak out though,
yeah.
or are they pretty cool? Yeah.
Every single time, they're like, "You have guns?" Yes, I have guns. Where are they? In the big case in the back seat, locked up. Like they don't have a clue, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have a funny story. In 2019, I was coming back over with a buddy of mine, his girlfriend, my mom, who also shoots with me, and then me. So we had 6 guns in the car total. We pull up to the booth. We get this guy. You could tell right away he takes himself way too seriously. He's like, "Hi, bonjour," and my friend's girlfriend was really upset right off the bat because he said bonjour wrong. She's very French and didn't like the way he pronounced it. She just kind of grit her teeth, and I was like, "Really? That's where you draw the line because he didn't say bonjour right?" But okay.
Like, be cool, cool. We got guns.
So he's like, "Where were you?" And my friend's like, "Oh, Kimball, Michigan." "Oh, what was there?" He's like, "Oh, we were shooting a 3-gun match." He's like, "You have guns?" Like, freaked out. And yes, we have guns. Where are they? He's like, "They're in the bed of the truck." He's like, "Don't reach for them." Wasn't going to, but okay. And he's like, once
this. Oh, I'm sorry. It sounds similar to flying, like in the U.S. Like it really depends on the gate agent you get, and some really do freak out. It's like if I was going to hurt you, I wouldn't tell you I have guns.
Exactly.
First off, and so I always start off with I need to declare unloaded firearms, and then I don't say gun, and that usually makes it a little bit easier, but still a lot of times I'll freak out.
Well, then the border guard slammed the window shut. He gets on the phone. He's calling down to secondary. He throws it back open. He's like, "What was it you said you were bringing in?" And he's like, "Well, we've got 2 rifles, 2 pistols, and 2 shotguns." And he's just like, "Oh, really?" And he's, he got all excited, like he had us, right? Like he's like, "Yeah, the score of the day, right? Like I'm gonna, it's like they're all legal.
Get that promotion.
Like they're all legal. They're all, whatever." So he writes it all down, slams the window shut again, throws it open. He's like, "Anything else to declare?" And like a good gun person, my buddy Matt, he's like, "Yeah, I had a knife around here somewhere." He's like, "Don't reach for it. We'll find it. We're good at that." And I'm just like, "Oh." And I'm just like,
this is not going to go good.
We're just like, okay. So he slams the window shut again, walks out the back of the booth, has us pull forward, and then slaps the yellow sticker of doom on the windshield. So that means we're going down to secondary for an inspection.
No.
Pull into secondary. Pull into a parking spot. 5 guards come walking out of the office. approaching the truck. I'm like, really? Is this necessary? So I'm digging in my bag to get my paperwork and my license, and my mom and my buddy Matt's girlfriend, they go to the front of the truck and they're waiting, and the head honcho comes storming out. He's like, look, you fucking idiots, check their serial numbers and get these guys the fuck out of here. Just like that. And, you know, you're in a serious place, so you got to fight the giggles. Like, he's like, I'm sick of this fucker sending every other guy down here. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, he was pissed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was.
So that poor guy thinks he's going to get a promotion, but really he's like getting ready to get fired.
Pretty much. So they walk over, we unlock the cases, and I shit you not, I had 4 border guards over each other like this with their arms up, just like their arms around each other, just staring at our guns going, these are fucking sick. Didn't even look at the serial numbers, didn't look at our paperwork, closed them, locked them, sent us on our way, and we waved to the guy as we're driving by.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
It was not a big deal at all, but you get people like that, or this last time I came over, I got to the booth, and it was just me and my mom, and we had just finished shooting. She goes, you know, where were you? I said, oh, you know, we were at a multi-gun match. Like, what's multi-gun? I said, 3-gun. She's like, oh, well, how does that work? And I'm like, well, pistol holstered, you know, rifle and barrel, shotgun and barrel, like
how much time do you have? This is going to take you, it's going to take a long time.
She's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, that's when I'm like, okay, you're cool. She's like, do you have paperwork for that? And, you know, I hand her the paper, our registrations and our licenses, and I'm explaining the whole thing to her. She goes, yeah, I've been a border guard 13 years, had my pal for 14, never owned a gun a day in my life.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, okay. So she had no clue of what we needed to cross, like just no clue whatsoever. It was funny. I could have had a pound of Coke in the back seat and gotten it through pretty easily, you know.
It's pretty interesting, like how I guess not really serious people take their jobs, and they don't really. I don't know. We run into that with TSA all the time when looking up stuff and knowing the rules and knowing how much your ammo weighs and stuff like that, and that's just, you know, going from state to state where it shouldn't even be that big of a deal, except you're on an airplane, but. Yeah, the first time I ever flew with guns, I was so freaking nervous, and I may have told this story on the podcast before, but I was so nervous, and I was flying out of Austin. I was going to St. George to shoot Hard as Hell, and I was like almost shaking as I like went up to the counter. Like I went over all my stuff like 3 times, went through my normal bag, made sure I didn't have anything, and I get there, and I tell the lady like. Like I need to declare unloaded firearms, and she's like, okay, and she's like, you know, open it up, and so I take the 4 locks on off of it, or she said unlock it, and so I took the 4 locks off, and she's like, open it up, and so I open it up, and then she had me send the card, and she looks in there and she goes, I do not know what I am looking at, and then dropped the card in there and sent me over to security. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. I was like so serious about it, and then she's just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I got to put this little orange thing in there and then send you on your way. So I thought that was kind of funny. That
happens to us sometimes too. Like this last weekend when I was coming over to the States, I got a guy. He was super nice. Like usually they're super nice. They're cautious, right? They don't know what we've got. And I pull up. I tell him where we're going. He's like, oh, what's there? I'm like, oh, you know, multi-gun match. He's like, okay. He's like, you got guns in the car? Yeah, they're in the big case in the back all locked up. He's like, okay. He's like, shut it off. He's like, open up the back. I'm like, okay, no problem. He opens up the back of my car, and he looks, and there's this big case just wedged between my jogging stroller and the cooler, and he's just kind of looks at it, he goes, nope, and shuts it.
Yeah, it's too much effort.
And he's just like, nope, not today. He's like, what was in the cooler? I'm like, oh, you know, just waters and stuff. He's like, okay. Have a good night, or have a good day. Enjoy yourself. I'm like, okay. You know,
man, maybe smuggling wouldn't be that hard, you know?
maybe. The only time I've ever been pulled into secondary is me and 2 of my friends were going to the Great Lakes 3-Gun Championship match in 2019. And we had 9 guns and, you know, thousands of rounds each. And that's the only time we got pulled over. And same thing, you've got, you know, three border guards on the American side just staring at my buddy's 2011 going, we don't get anything like this. Where do I get one of these? And I'm shaking, right? Because I'd never been in secondary before. And the head guy that was there, he's like, why are you shaking? You got something to hide? And I just about shit my pants right on the spot. I'm just like, no. He's like, I'm just fucking with you. He's like, have a good night. I'm like,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It was funny. They just wanted to check the serial numbers to make sure they matched what was on the paperwork. Like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Interesting. Okay, so it's no big deal. So it's not that much effort enough to where you go shoot once a month at a club match in the U.S.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's a bigger deal just living in Canada with them. I have to laugh because I went to the States on the weekend, and like I said, we have magazine restrictions. So I'm loading a 30-round mag, and people are talking about D60s, and I just get past 10. I'm like, it doesn't stop, like just full mag. Like, it's just such a different feeling. Same with pistol mags. Like, everyone's like, I need 23+1, and I'm just happy loading 17 into my pistol mags. I'm kind of like, yeah, not gonna miss today. So it's a different feeling. It's so awesome. When the ban happened, I was set to go shoot Vortex Shooter Source that February. Like right when COVID hit, I was all packed, had all my paperwork to go shoot Vortex Shooter Source. And we were getting ready to shoot Vortex Shooter Source, and the scamdemic hit, and it closed down the border. So I was at work. I was getting really excited. And my buddy texted me. He's like, listen, man, like, if we get stuck over there, I lose my vacation. So, like, we can't go. So it was a little disheartening right when it hit. But right after,
that's a bummer.
But right after, it looked like the border was going to open up. So my mom and I were signed up to shoot the Great Lakes 3-Gun Championship in 2020. And the ban had already happened. And when I got on the Facebook page to tell guys, like, we needed a rifle, just a number of people that were like, I've got a backup rifle you can use. I've got a backup rifle you can use. Like, it's amazing to me that so many, like, we come from so many different walks of life, and you meet people that you would never meet any other way. And, they'll give you mags, that they'll give you a rifle, they'll give you guns to use, like ammo. Like, people in the 3-gun community are just incredible. And I've never met anybody like it. Like, some of my closest friends I've only met through shooting, and it's astonishing to me the amount of people that are willing to help us out, and they hardly know us.
A lot of times it's someone you just met too, and they're willing to help you out. They're willing to give you like thousands of dollars worth of gear, and the other part is like people on your squad that you don't even know, and then all of a sudden you're joking around and you're like best buddies by the end of the weekend. It's so much fun. It's such a unique experience.
Oh, for sure.
Well, Ryan, we're experiencing some internet difficulties here, so I think we should wrap her up, and hopefully we can do this again some other time. Why don't you tell me what you're shooting this year, and then I'll give you the option for a final thought or piece of advice to share with the audience.
So this year, my mom and I plan to do as much shooting in Michigan as we can. There's the Blue Water match. There's a range called Caro. They do monthly matches, and then a range called LGC, and they do their monthly match. And we're already signed up to shoot Jeff Kirkwall Memorial. And if we can swing it,
nice.
We want to go down to Memorial 3-Gun.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that's the plan for this year. Funds pending. It depends on what we can afford, and how the border is, because I'm not sure if this pandemic is quite over yet.
Yeah, I guess it all depends, but all right. Well, hopefully we'll be able to run into each other and chat in person at some of the matches that you're going to this year.
Oh, for sure.
Ryan, man, it's been great to have you on the show here. I really do appreciate the time that you've taken to explain Canadian 3-Gun to us, and I want to give you an opportunity here, just a final thought or piece of advice to share with the audience.
I was thinking about this all night last night. Since I'm talking to mostly an American audience, I'll be honest, you guys are so lucky to have the Second Amendment, and I I really think you guys should take a little more Americans should take pride in the Second Amendment and realize how free you guys really are, to be able to use the guns you have and have something that says, we're allowed to have guns. Canadian gun rights aren't really a thing. It's more of a privilege over here. And I hope more people take it seriously about how important gun rights are, not just for Americans, but for everybody. And, I joke with people all the time when I go over to the States and I'm like, finally freedom. But as of late, Canada doesn't feel like a free country anymore. So when I do go to the States, I do feel like I get a piece of freedom. Like this past weekend, I got to shoot a suppressor an entire match, and it was awesome. And you guys are just so lucky to have stuff like that and have access to stuff like that. So that'd be my final piece of advice or final thought.
Right on. Well, I think that's a great final thought, and I think everyone here listening to the show is with you, and hopefully we can all spread it. So, hey, tell a friend about the Second Amendment if you're listening to this. Ryan, thanks again for being on the show, man. I do appreciate your time. Hang in here with me, and we'll wrap up after the show. For everybody else listening, we'll see you on the range.